What's the cringiest thing you've seen a bride and groom do for their wedding? Please consider subscribing if you enjoy the video. I wasn't a guest, I was working the wedding. The bride got drunk and sat on some other dude's lap for 2 hours and flirted with him while the groom sat by himself at the head table with a defeated look on his face. This might be the most depressing one yet. Does dying on the inside count regarding the until death do us part clause? I wish I knew how the couple is doing now. Yikes. They sang their vows to each other. Neither had a singing voice. Vows were generally batted crazy, like submissive in the bedroom, and not asking about where she was going. The auto-tune microphones were a terrible idea. Their vow songs shared a chorus and it was awful, and they expected the guests to sing along with the chorus. The vows singing lasted 20 minutes. Pure cringe. Everclear, my friend. Invite all their Facebook friends and expect 700 people and like less than 100 show up. A guy knew a couple who didn't specifically invite anyone, just made like a public event on Facebook or somehow assumed people would know when, where it was and show up. They were confused and offended when almost nobody came. Yikes. Whenever I see a Facebook public event, it doesn't make me feel obligated to come. Like it's a public block party or something. Bride shows up almost 2 hours late to her own wedding. Southern California in an open field, no water, no shade. She shows up and wants to get married in her yoga outfit. The groom shut it down, and when she refused to change her clothes, the groom decided to leave her looking stupid and they never got married. I spoke with my uncle and it turns out he had speculation that his fiancée was sleeping with her personal trainer. When she showed up in her yoga outfit, it was all he needed to call off the wedding. She ended up married to her personal trainer and divorced again. Good call on the groom's part. How did it even get that far is the question. Not the groom and bride's fault, but the pastor marrying them talked about his marriage and his kids for 20 minutes. He was obviously going for something of showing what marriage will be like, but he full up was talking about how his daughter, Kelsey, learned to walk this way, and his other daughter's first words were this and that he and his wife make love throughout the house, because that's what you do when in love, etc. Bride and groom had to stand there holding hands for 20 minutes right in front of him as the other 150 of us had to listen about his ex-life and his kids. Oh god, you just reminded me of an acquaintance I knew, didn't go to the wedding, but heard from a mutual friend who was there, where the pastor marrying them told the couple to divorce their friends under the promise that it would make them a stronger couple or something like that. And they followed that advice. So pretty much after the wedding and reception, they just never again talked to any of the friends they had invited to celebrate their big moment. I thought they would be divorced within a year, but turns out that they're still together. But yeah, apparently married couples aren't allowed to have friends. That is probably the single worst piece of advice I've heard in this thread. The groom sang his vows. I honestly had to stare at the floor and slow breath to not laugh and get through it. My cousin did this. He played the guitar while singing his vows. He doesn't know how to play the guitar or sing. Thank frick there wasn't a guitar, because I may have had a stroke. Discordant guitar strum, I love you. B-I-E-I-E-I-H, another discordant guitar strum, I ain't never gonna stop loving you. B-I-E-I-E-I-K. I went to one where the bride sang a song immediately after walking down the aisle. It was very strange, but she was a good singer at least. Okay, I had forgotten about this, because it was about 25 years ago, but I went to a wedding where the bride did something similar. The thing was, she was so nervous she actually threw up before singing her song. Right there at the front of the church. Luckily she'd moved off to the side to sing. They had set up a separate little stage there. So, she threw up, sang her song, someone ran in, and cleaned it up pretty quickly, and then they did the vows. The funny part is we all kind of moved on, didn't think about it during the ceremony at all, which went really well, until the kiss. Then the whole crowd groaned in unison. The groom gave a speech thanking everyone for coming that devolved in the space of about 2 minutes into a straight up roast of his new brother-in-law. They were friends, and the brother-in-law seemed to take it in good humor, but there's only so much implication of "I'm for sure going to be fricking your sister tonight" that you can take before it becomes really cringy. It didn't help that I barely knew anyone there because I was a +1, and B, I was on the table with the elderly relatives from that side of the family who were less than amused. Oh god, you just gave me a flashback to my wedding. My brother-in-law is super awkward and doesn't understand emotional boundaries. He likes to inject himself into other people's emotional moments to sing, always a Ben Folds song, or whatever. Takes videos of people so he can edit a cheesy video together later as a gift, that kind of thing. My husband and I had a small wedding and agreed to no maid of honor / best man, because it was a pretty non-traditional event. So after we said our vows we joined the crowd for a toast from our officiant, which was fantastic. Until after the toast, guess who pushed his way up to the front, pulls out a huge notebook, and then proceeds to roast my new husband with weird jokes that no one got, and even my husband had forgotten about or didn't know what he was talking about for the most part. Luckily my sisters encouraged him down and then got up to give an impromptu joint speech inviting everyone to the buffet. The worst part is he made my new father-in-law record it and sent the speech to us afterwards as a gift. I don't think we saved that video. Oh bless him. My now ex-husband and I had a family friend with somewhat marked autism type social behaviors and a functioning IQ that put him somewhere in his early teens developmentally. Real sweetheart, and we loved him to death. He told us he wanted to give a speech at our wedding, so we arranged for a family dinner type of thing at our house a few nights prior to the wedding, and he gave us his speech there. It was a good call, because although he meant well and with our carefully curated audience, we all laughed and enjoyed the sentiment. However, it was almost entirely well-rehearsed dirty ex jokes. They bought an apple orchard after leaving the city to live a simpler life, and really doubled down on the apple theme. Apples everywhere. On the tables, in baskets all around the venue, on the podium where they got married, pictures of apples hanging everywhere, small fake trees with apples tossed under them. The dude marrying them had an apple tie on, apples somehow incorporated into every dish for the reception. The cake was shaped like an apple. It was really freaking bizarre. They sold the orchard a couple years later, because they had no idea what they were doing. When I was reading the first few apple themed things, I was like, oh, that's cute, but then the list kept going LMAO. They even had apple themed comments on the Reddit thread about their wedding. I'm guessing no doctors attended the wedding. Literally standing outside the windows scratching the walls and hissing loudly. At the reception line, after the church wedding ceremony, the bride had a large bottle of her favorite perfume and sprayed each guest with it, female and male, whether they wanted it or not, as they entered the banquet hall. Some guests complained that the smell of perfume was so strong that they lost their appetite and couldn't partake of the banquet. Why would she do this? The bride said she loved the fragrance and wanted to share that love with everyone celebrating with her and her new husband. Hey hun, just wanted to share this great fragrance with you. To celebrate my husband and I's special day, for a limited time, I'm offering you this unique opportunity to become an early distributor with me. Respond quick while there's still spaces. This great product won't be a secret for long. It's blowing up already. Easy to see why. The ingredients are so ethical and honest. It's practically made of honor. Her uncle Paul stank that much, but she just couldn't find the courage to single him out. At a classmate's wedding. They were young, maybe like 22, 23. There is apparently a caking tradition in some parts of the country, where when they cut a wedding cake, the couple feed each other a bit and smear each other's faces with cake as a joke. The bride had absolutely made 1000% clear to the groom she did not want to be caked. He did it anyways, and not just a small smear, but full on smushed the slice in her face. She was stunned initially, then got up, face full of cake, yelled "You a-hole, I told you not to do that," and then ran to her back area in the reception. The groom tried to follow, but the bridesmaids, mother of the bride, stopped him. So he sat at the head table awkwardly while half the wedding party rushed off with the bride. She stayed back there for like an hour. They eventually did let him back there to check on her. We could hear her crying and them arguing. The rest of the reception came to a screeching halt until one of the bride's aunts emerged and directed the servers to clear the tables and put on some music. They got divorced 2 years later. My dad's mother and stepfather owned a bar restaurant back in the 60s that hosted the occasional wedding reception. At one such reception, the husband caked the wife, even as she was asking him not to, knowing he would do it. When he did, a fist fight broke out between the newlyweds that soon involved much of the wedding. As far as I know, they were married for a long time after. Happened at my niece's wedding. Her new husband full on shoved that cake in her face and she lost it. Almost exactly what you described, except she never got over it. From that point forward for the rest of the night she was in tears, or screaming in rage. The wedding was literally ruined. A lot of people left when it became obvious that it had turned into a bigot show. I spent most of the reception outside smoking pot with various guests young and old, so that was kind of fun. They're still married.